it's important for us that as we proceed, from day to day, to pay more attention to the fitra, internally and externally, because Allah is always instructing us. Allah is always guiding us, and hence we have our practice of starting off our classes with gratitude. So just being mindful, being more aware, paying more attention to what's happening inside of you. That's number one. And number two, being spending the time, making the effort to spend more and more time to what's happening, what appears to be external, you know. And again, so if you have not done so, take a moment, and even if you just write a word that will carry the thought of what you are feeling right now, that you have to be grateful for. Just use a word. If you don't have to write a whole sentence or a whole phrase, just a word. And at least 10, you know. And what it does, it will help calibrate. It'll help calibrate your sensitivities. It'll help uh, pull your frequencies back online to where we want them, so that you can contribute and you can benefit uh, fully from what the class has available for you. Because it's certainly a blessing to be a part of this association that we have in this class environment. So you want to be here, you want to be present. And that's what taking this moment to calibrate your sensitivities. It's like if you were part of a band, it could be just a three-part band, a two-part band, a one-part band, or a whole orchestra, you know. Then again, first thing that's important to do is for everyone to get in tune, in sync. So that's what we're doing. And there's two ways to make yourself more malleable, like the teen, right? That says, "Teeny wazaytun." Allah tells us in the Quran. So we want to make ourselves more shapeable, more malleable, more sensitive. And you want to do that to what's happening, again, internally. That's what the greater life is for us as human beings, is internal life. So we want to get quiet and allow ourselves to tune in to what's happening internally, and to quiet the noise internally. So that's why we get quiet. So some would call it meditating. There are many words for. Some would call it prayer, others would call it salah. But that process of actually quieting the noise internally and listening. You want to listen, get quiet enough where you can first listen to yourself. Like Allah is constantly guiding you internally to begin with, then the external. So, and there's no better way to prepare for what is in store for us today. See, instructor has been very clear with us and letting us realize that Allah allows. And if Allah allows, then what he gives us in the form of guidance and construction in the Quran is for us. So we must get into the practice. That's part of our tuning our instrument. So this body uh, is designed to be an instrument of consciousness. The angels can't do that. But here in this human body, we are instruments of consciousness. That's our potential. So you want to tune your instrument, to get into the right frequency. So, and again, especially on a day like today, when we're anticipating to hear from uh, two presentations by some of our distinguished class members, and each one of us is a distinguished class member. But we have two that's going to make a presentation to prepare us to get us in a state of allowance again, to be ready to receive what Allah is bringing all of us through International Instructor Benjamin Bilal. on his subject that he's sharing with us, the Quran's meaning of women, part two. Uh, he primed the pump at our last class for part one. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to listen to it one, two, three times, but if you haven't, you need to do that. And but for now, and just getting yourself ready for today. Again, do your that reflection, quiet your mind, quiet the noise, and just get ready. Just get ready. Now, if Bayina is with us, we want to have her come on board, and she's going to begin the class with a presentation. Make sure she's here. Yeah, she's here. So Bayina is going to begin the class with her presentation. And again, give her your, we support each other by just being present for each other, you know. And when we do that, that's the strongest support that we can possibly give by just being fully present. That's why we quieting the noise in our minds, uh, tuning this instrument by bringing it into our conscious to the front, right? Bringing to our consciousness what we're grateful for and making sure that our subconscious is supporting that. So, Bayina, if you are.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
There you are. Yes, yes. Oh, you got it
Okay.
behind you.
Alhamdulillah.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
yeah. Right.
Uh,
Good.
so
You
you
got
want
it.
me to, you want me to get started right now?
You got it. You got the talking sticks.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
All right. Bismillah. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If it's just going to be too long, let me know, okay? Because I
Dana,
yeah.
are usually 5 to 7 minutes, so just keep that in mind to respect that we have another class.
Okay. All right. Greetings, everyone. I'm Bayina Patricia Hamid. I'm a senior Nunetics instructor for Nunetics Institute, founded by international instructor Benjamin Bilal. Now, Allah has evolved the human understanding of the fitra, of the cosmos and its movement, and what appears to be stillness of the heavenly bodies from a primitive thinking to advanced and expanded thinking in the 21st century. At present, there are theories that allow the verification of facts relating to the creation of the universe. This presentation is an attempt by myself to explore the concept of the expanding universe on the linguistic level through the new linguistic science of Nunetics. Now, to me, Nunetics, as a new linguistic science, is also an unveiling of a secret. This secret has to do with the seven universal sounds of the mouth as related to Grimm's law. Nunetics is the coming together of something, the consequent infusion of linguistic science as a single entity, and the other meaning of total darkness. Nunetics is the evolved state of universal linguistics. It's bringing total light, nur, the infusion of all linguistics as a single entity. These words offer an apt description of the singularity of a type of linguistic black hole that makes every language smaller, like the gravitational collapse of a mass that is colossal size. In simpler words, every letter of the Arabic alphabet represents a part of the human body. Nunetics informs us that because of the consonantal connections of letters, every language will have the same or similar meanings. It does not matter what language it is. There is a connection. I often think about the Bible story of the Tower of Babel and how at one time the whole world spoke one language. I see Nunetics bringing one language back to the planet and helping to restore the fitra or imbalances in the world. Etymology, or the study of words, and linguistics are important because linguistics, in particular, is a scientific study of all language, and especially because it is central to understanding both the human mind and human society. International instructor Benjamin Bilal constantly reminds us of this. I see Nunetics as a super cosmic paradigm shift. A super cosmic paradigm shift refers to a radical and fundamental change in our understanding of the universe on a grand scale. Essentially, a complete rethinking of the basic principles and theories that govern the cosmos, potentially triggered by the new cosmic discoveries that drastically alter our perception of how the universe works. Similar to the shift from Earth centered Ptolemaic model or the geocentric Earth or the centered principle model to the sun centered Copernican model in astronomy. Now, my study buddy and I have been studying vowels and labials. So I'm going to move on and hopefully expand your thinking about Nunetics. I teach Nunetics in my art classes subliminally, and that's another topic for another day. Let me speak briefly about labials specifically. The labial ba, a lip sound, the English letter B, and or the Arabic letter ba. Vowels we studied, which are breath sounds. The English A E I O U, or A E I O U, and the Arabic fata, the I above ba, and the kasra below the B, and the dama the U below bu. And the labials are lip sounds. And in English, we determine that there are six labials: ba, B, F, P, V, W, and meme. So we're gonna have to discuss that with Instructor a lot about the meme because I think it's been misclassified. So for Arabic, there are only four: ba, fa, wa, and meme. So today, the Nunetics meanings for labial ba, fa, wa, meme. We're gonna talk about the method, the body parts, the environment, and the abstract. That's how we do here at Nunetics Institute. So now the body parts represented by the ba is the abdomen, the bowel or guts, and the testicles. Environmental meaning, am I running behind or am I going too fast?
Doing
You
fine.
can,
Okay. The environmental meaning, any container that fills up and empties out and refills, such as people in a house, sperm in a scrotum sac or testicles. Something that fills up and empties out the stomach, your gut, your bowels, your testicles, a temporary housing place. The stomach fills up and empties out. Bait, the Arabic word for house. Abstract meaning, in and with implies as a family in the same place, living in the same place, but separate individuals, but are related entities. Individual sperm in the testes. B, the capital B represents a pregnant woman. You see her breast, her belly, and the small b just represents the pregnant woman with a big belly. Okay, emptying out and replacing because when that baby comes out, all right, all right. I wrote a book called The Brain and the Barn, and maybe inshallah we'll share it. It was written for all ages by this name, the Brain and the Barn. I mentioned it in the class before. The labial ba is a lip sound, and all labials are lip sounds. The Arabic letter ba is the first letter of the name Bilal and is written in Arabic as ba, the vowel lam, B-A-L, B-I-L-A-L. Okay, so you have the sound, the vowels, the kasra, the short I, the lam, or the L. Now, the Arabic letter ba is a label consonant, specifically a voiced bilabial sound, a bilabial stop, which means it's pronounced by bringing both lips together and releasing the air, similar to the English b. The word bilabial has all of our instructor Bilal's attributes, letters for form, and he lives up to it. He will press the air out of your brain and cause expansion to take place, causing your brain to grow new neurons so fast that you will be mesmerized. Now back to the brain and the barn. Both the brain and the barn can be seen as words that represent things that fill up and empty out, serving as powerful metaphors for cycles of accumulation. And the analogy, the brain is a conceptual container for thoughts, knowledge, and memories. Filling up the brain is filled through the process of learning, observing, and experiencing. And every new piece of information, every memory formed, and every idea conceived is a way of filling the brain with substance.
Okay,
In,
this is good to kind of wind it down.
I'm almost done. I'm
Okay,
doing
good,
a barn,
good.
emptying out.
Okay,
The brain can be emptied out through various processes. Forgetting is a natural way of clearing out old information, or the act of writing or speaking, or creating something from your thoughts in a way of emptying out ideas and concepts into the world, or clearing the mind through meditation or rest. It's a form of spiritual or mental emptying. And the barn is a physical container, a vessel for a farmer's work and resources. He fills it up, and then he fills it up during the harvest season, and then the crops are stored, the hay, the grain, and the tools, and then its purpose is to hold the bounty and abundance from the land. And then he empties it out. He empties the barn out by gradually using its contents. Okay, I'll stop here. Thank
okay,
you.
great. All right,
I hope
alhamdulillah.
I expanded somebody's mind.
Oh, it was awesome. I enjoyed it. I mean, you took me to the ends of the cosmos and back, if there is such a thing. We praise you.
Inshallah.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
you know,
Thank
this
you
is
so much.
and it's important for, especially for the men, the brothers, to get back into the habit of listening to women. You know, that's one of the problems in relationships. You know, that we have this blockage. You know, we've been programmed to think that we're supposed to be out front, meaning that she's supposed to be quiet and listen to us. You know, but it should be a mutual, complementary kind of exchange and connection. So this is very important, and so there's no better way to, again, get even more prepared for what Allah has in store for us, for my international instructor, Benjamin Bilal, by turning the talking stick now over to one of my, what I like to call my partners in rhyme. We don't say crime, partners in rhyme. In rhyme, Nawa Coleman. So Nawa, you got the talking stick and do what you do best with it.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's always a pleasure to see you and be in this group. So just want to extend my love and gratitude for you all. Thank you, Instructor William, for always reminding us to have gratitude and start labeling and marking that. And all praises is to Allah, as always. So, and also I wanted to say, Bayina, that was a great presentation. And I know that Instructor William and Instructor Bilal will give the proper feedback for how we could continue to be more successful communicators. So I'm going to try to keep mine at about 7 minutes as well. This is a little bit more of an observation. So this week, or this first strong 7 leading up to today, I had entered something called Make More Offers Challenge. And this challenge is hosted by Myron Golden. Some of you may have heard of him before. He's a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur, and he's also a preacher and a social media influencer, so to speak, because he has a very successful YouTube channel. And what he does is he teaches entrepreneurs how to scale and grow their businesses and how to shift their mindset so that they can continue to grow exponentially. And he predominantly utilizes biblical principles to help him guide him in that communication to his audience. So the challenge was 5 days long, from Monday to Friday. And then on Friday, every time at the end of the 2-hour session that we do on Zoom, they have a few people volunteer to give their testimonials. So I gave my Friday testimonial, and I said to her, to the group, that I said in my faith practice, I wanted to share it with you all, the video, but I decided for the sake of time, I'll just explain it. So I said, in my faith practice, there's a term called Iman. And Iman has 3 components, which is faith, trust, and confidence in the source creator. And I told them that my faith and my trust has strengthened over the years, but the confidence piece of it still I'm working on. And I've probably said this to you guys before. And doing this challenge helped me to kind of reframe some of the confidence, speaking to having more confidence in myself and what I can attain for my business over time. But that also aligns with the confidence that we really need to have in our source creator. We won't always understand the directions we're going. We don't always understand the seasons we are in fully. But as long as you are actively working towards it, then you'll reach that point. So at the conclusion of that, the woman who moderated the challenge, her name is Rebecca, said, wow, the insight that you gave me on Iman was very interesting because she speaks Kinyarwanda because she is from Rwanda. And if you see this woman, she looks like she's probably Eastern European. You would have never thought she was from Rwanda. Then she says, in our language, Kinyarwanda, Imana, Imana, means God. That was very true testament to the importance and value of Nunetics. So fast forward to yesterday, which was Saturday, me and my husband, we were watching a debate. It was a theological existential debate. And I'm going to share my screen really quickly so this can really sit if you're able to see what I'm seeing. So the more that I'm engaging in Nunetics, and sometimes the best way to do things is to allow people to come to it naturally. If you are the living example, people will start to gravitate towards you, especially if it's helped improve you as an individual. And there was an interest. He said, because he's doing Duolingo and he's learning Hebrew now. And he's like starting to see, and actually the little bit of osmosis that he's picking up from me being in the classes, because I keep the volume up so that we all hear it. And he's like, the Nunetics is helping me to use Duolingo to understand the Hebrew. So he's still grappling with the seed letter ideas. What is a seed letter? I think people, it's so funny, root words. We know what a root is, we know what a seed is, but what is a seed letter? People still struggle with it. So I said that in Arabic, we still know, or for the Arabic, Quranic Arabic, there is still a knowledge of all of the seed letter meanings in that alphabet system. Whilst in Hebrew, there is some knowledge, but it's gotten lost or obscure over time. And then I told them, we need to do our research, but this is some things that I've learned from reading Instructor's books and then the direction that he has pushed us. So that brings me to this page that we're looking at. He just Googled it and he found this. We've probably seen this before for many of us who have been a part of Nunetics for at least a year or so. And while he was looking at it, and I said, there's going to be differences between the Arabic and the Hebrew, but I can guess that some of these I will know without looking. So he just chose one arbitrarily. The first one he started with was right here, meme. I don't know if you all can see it, but we see meme and we see the wave and the pictograph. And then it has the meaning, which is water or chaos. And I told him meme probably means water. Didn't have to look at it. He was like, wow, that was right. Then he showed me this picture. He was like, okay, what about this here with the eye? I said, that's probably ein. And then he's like, oh, you figured that one out. And I'm like, yep, because we're learning about ein. And he says, I, to see, to experience. And then I went further into the definitions about ein as in the straining eye, which is a little bit more effort because when you are straining the eye, you are trying to find some resolve, which speaks to insight and perception. So these are things that we learned here, obviously in Nunetics, and this can go on forever because we was doing this all night and he really started to understand. So the main thing that I was able to help him understand is that there are layers of meanings and understanding. And in the process of Nunetics, as I was helping him to understand, we have to do a breakdown for every seed letter following these three criteria, which is a representation of one letter within the body. The second breakdown is its environmental meaning, so something that we can observably see in the environment. And then the third breakdown would be its abstract meaning, which is more of a developed understanding, but that is connected and tied to the fitra, God's nature. So, Allah, excuse me, nature. I always got to go back and forth. There's so many people of different faiths, but I know what it is. So just a quick breakdown. If we're going to look at Amana, Aleph, which is represented in the body by the spine, and the spine holds us upright. Also, we think of the environmental meaning of Aleph, and it is a support structure or a foundation, something that will hold something up, is how we see that environment, like a pillar. And then the next meaning, which is more abstract, is about uprightness, and it's an agreement. Then we move to the meme, or the letter M, and that is represented by the stomach. Not to confuse it like I did earlier today with the gut or the abdomen, but the stomach specifically. And the environmental meaning is either water, blood, or milk, any life sustaining fluid. That's an environmental meaning. And then our abstract meaning is morality and emotionality. And I'll kind of bring it all together. And then lastly, in Amana, we have the consonant Nun, N, which we see here in this class is represented by a seed. Also, a representation of Nun is the nasal, the nose, or specifically inhaling, upright inhalation, to be specific. That is within the body. And then environment, excuse me, I kind of reversed it, is the seed. And then, or actually it's in the body as well, because the man has seeds that have to enter into the woman. And then, so some are interchangeable in that regard. And then our abstract meaning is intuition and potential. So for the sake of time, I won't go through a further breakdown of how all these together mean trust, faith, and confidence. But if you have those breakdowns and you think about, take some pieces of it apart. If the spine is supporting your structure and holding your whole body up, and it would essentially crumble if you didn't have the spine, well, then that does speak to that trust that you have in our source creator. Without Allah, none of this exists. If you think about meme and you think about your stomach, turbulence happens in the stomach if you aren't eating right and there's a lot of acidity happening and you are unstable, or if you are nervous and you're going on stage for the first time and you have to present Nunetics to a room full of scholars from all over and your body is like, your stomach is topsy-turvy. However, it's that sense of morality when you do have the stability and you're able to harness and challenge that. So that's how you can see either faith or confidence. And then we have Noon, which is seed. And a seed, we know a seed has so much potential because we have these huge trees, like oak tree in your backyard or apple tree. And in my house, actually, 4 years ago, I planted it, and this thing is massive. But I have this fig tree. Every summer, it brings me fruits upon fruits upon fruits. But I started that with a seed. And there was just so much potential so long as you harness it and grow it. So all this is to say, Nunetics and understanding Allah's fitra is beyond any study that I've ever done, because it helps me to understand Allah's systems of nature and how it applies to how I and us as humanity should operate.
Wow.
Back to you.
Yes. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. No, again, I would hate to be sitting in Instructor Benjamin Bilal's shoes today, coming behind Baina and Nawa. And as a fellow learner, I really, really, really mean that. I start my day. I do a deep dive with getting into the quiet zone and trying to get tuned in. And also, then I like to go outside and get anchored or grounded in the external future, in the grass and around the leaves and the trees and the plants. And it just helps. But for a priming, a preparation for what's coming and our main course that's coming up in just a few moments with Instructor Benjamin Bilal, I couldn't think of a better way to start our class today than with our the women, two of our stars, and when we have a whole class full of them, there are more. Uh, but to me, it's so heartwarming just to get to this point where men, for the first time, as we began to uh, put our hands around this concept of how important women are in our life, and then as we look at that and begin to cherish that and nourish that relationship, we begin to understand ourselves better because we have this, we all are composed of this pairing of our sensitivities, of both the feminine as well as the masculine aspects of our being. So the more we seek to understand each other, the women in understanding the men's role and the men in understanding the woman's role, the more we're able to understand our own selves and gain the confidence that you so eloquently talked about in your explanation of Amina. So if International Ben Bilal is ready to take this talking stick and take our whole class to wherever Allah intends for us to go today, we're ready to open ourselves up and receive it. So the talking stick is available if you're ready to run with it.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Well, very well.
Alhamdulillah. I'm almost afraid to take this stick. I don't know what I'm going to say behind those two profound deliveries of
Yeah,
information.
yeah.
I mean, they signed, sealed, delivered, and tied the bow on top of that gift that they just gave us. And as William just said, I think it's a very profound sign from Allah that He allowed both of these presentations by women to happen on the day that our main discussion is the woman. So I want all of you to think about that. It highlights the nature of the contribution that all women can make and that most of you will make. Bayina's been a long time coming with her presentation, but it's been worth the wait.
Yes.
Absolutely worth the wait. And now while you're used to hearing from as a sort of co-host, but you don't always hear from her in terms of a directed delivery of a well thought out lecture. And that's exactly what that was. I'm going to have both of them transcribed, and they may very well appear in one of the upcoming books. And we have a lot of books rolling off of the press very, very soon, just trying to get all of the technical issues out of the way. And thanks to most of you who are supporting me, that's being done in a very, very nice way that will be worth your wait. So thank you very much. Give me just one moment. I'm going to bring up my notes and start this other level of recording. Stand by.
Sorry to interject, instructor. Anybody who's just recently joined, if you could please be on camera, that would be good. Whoever has the ability to be on camera, if you're not at work or in a compromising situation, please have your cameras on, mics off. And instructor, if and when, if you could give us feedback, we would appreciate that so that we can
Yeah,
continue more effectively.
certainly, certainly. Well, your subjects actually overlap. Yeah, they overlap, and I think that's worth noting also. That's something that we like to call synchronicity. It's when you don't necessarily get a chance to discuss your subject matter with another person, but when you end up talking to that person, you're talking basically about the same things. And I thought that was profound. I'm only saying this now in an effort to encourage other people among us. The other, what we used to call learners, we're calling you instructors now. Um, to encourage you is to not do anything artificial to make you feel as though you can do what they did. I don't think we need to say anything artificial. I don't think we need any artificial pats on the back or anything like that. I think that as you were listening, you yourself know that you are quite capable of doing exactly the same thing that they did. That's a beautiful thing. You are capable of doing exactly what they did. If I were to comment on the individual points that they were making, we'd be here quite a while because they made some interesting points. What I will do is listen back to both presentations and write out my thoughts and send it to everybody, not just the ones who are present, but also the ones who are absent. For maybe by chance, the ones who are absent might understand it better than those of you who are present. I'm sure you've heard that before. Well, that's my process. So continue to listen very carefully. I will give you a detailed breakdown because I have the recording. I will give you a detailed breakdown of both presentations, and that's for your learning uh, effort. Because many times we give presentations, and I'm sure those of you who teach like I do can attest to this. You give presentations and you almost don't remember what you said until you hear it back. You're so busy talking, the brain is so busy calculating the next thing you're going to say to make sure it makes sense with what you just said that you have to listen back and say, wow, that was kind of deep. I didn't realize I went that deep. The other thing about speaking, and I'm speaking in generalities on purpose. I'm not speaking to specific points or specific issues or specific. Then I'm going to show my prejudice if I do that, because there are certain things that I love hearing over and over again, and there are some things that I'm not so sold on as concepts. Not even in Nunetics. Nunetics is constantly evolving. So by the time I hear or read something else related to Nunetics, even from the Nunetics book, and in fact, the best way of explaining this is to make sure that you have listened back to the 29 or so explanations for the letters in Nunetics that are on YouTube on the most part. Not all of them, but you'll be able to have access to all of them. Listen back to those presentations and then go back and look at those letters in your Nunetics book, and you're going to see that there has been much added to it, much information that has been added to it. So never be satisfied with where you are. I may ask these two young ladies to come back next week and give another presentation. For this one, they had months to prepare. For that one, they may have just 7 strong days to prepare a totally new presentation on totally different letters. So that's how the instructor likes to instruct. Comparative analysis, think deeply about what you told us, and then about what you would like to tell us in addition to what you told us. I want this to be an ongoing challenge. An ongoing challenge. I don't want you to hang your microphone up and say, my job is done. No, your job is just beginning with the explanations that you gave. Your job will be in full flight when you are where I am teaching your own group of students. That's how you'll know you've made it. When Instructor Bilal assigns you 4 or 5 people, new people particularly, and there are people waiting for you right now to have a totally separate class than this to help them catch up. We've had 3 and 4 and 5 straight years of this information. You can't expect a new person to just jump in and get it. They need study buddies. They need people to instruct them. They need people to encourage them. It's like taking the average person and then just throwing them in the middle of the water before you even ask them, can they swim? So when you come to this class, you have to be prepared, as I always say, for deep sea diving, because we're not looking for the scum that floats at the top of the water. Most people have that and they have access to that. We're looking for the pearls. And you know, for the pearls, you have to dive deep. All of you know that. You have to dive deep. So when people come up with pearls that you've never seen before, and you have questions about where did he get that? How did she collect those? You know they're beautiful, but you don't know how they form. You don't know what the purpose is. Is it the purpose to just hang around my neck as an ornament? No. The purpose is to help you realign yourself with Allah's fitrah. So if I were to put everything that I've said to you in all of these years into one word, I would say that that word is alignment. And that word covers a lot of territory. It covers the word salat. That's what salat is. It covers the word dua. That's what a dua is. It's an attempt to align your frequencies with the frequencies of Allah. And as William said earlier, one of the frequencies of Allah is that He allows. The word allow, I'm convinced, without any scholar telling me that is the truth. I'm convinced that the English word allow comes from the Arabic word Allah. I'm convinced that the English word all comes from the word Allah. If you can't see that, then there's about 90% of other things I've said that you won't be able to see. You got to be able to see the simple things first. When you wake up in the morning and open your window to a nice spring day or a nice fall day, you have to be able to register the simplicity in the environment before you start looking for the deep things like what is an atom and a molecule. You can't see that as soon as you open the window. They exist there simultaneous to the simple things, but you have to begin by evaluating those things that are right in front of your five basic senses. And again, that's Nunetics. Start with the simple and then graduate to the sophisticated. Everyone's following me on that? You can just shake your heads to let me know that you can hear me clearly and that you understand. If there's anything you won't understand or don't understand, then we'll talk about that either at a later date or if we have time at the end of my discourse. But this is a beautiful day for us. I'm celebrating in my heart of hearts because of what I'm hearing. Just a little bit I've heard so far from the few of you. I am celebrating. What did Prince say in that song? Like it's 1999? I'm not going to use that number because I know where it came from. Yeah, but it's three wombs of development in that number also. That 999. Yeah. Three wombs, three swirls, three Fibonacci swirls, as they call them, in that number. And nine, as you know, is the number in which most babies come into birth after 9 months. So in essence, we're a 9 class, ready to give birth to new minds, to new thinking, to new adventures and learning. And I need for you to be as excited as I am about where we're going. And the only reason that you might not be as excited is because you haven't been studying. When you start to study on the level that I've asked you to study, every time you open a book, you're going to be excited all over again because Nunetics is everywhere. It's everywhere. Like I told you, Allah and allow, those are the kinds of things that would just pop in your mind out of nowhere, seemingly, because they're related and your brain knows it. And if you study enough, the brain is going to make what are called synapses, which means connections in the brain with what appears to be logical to the brain. And you will be your own best teacher, not me. When those events start to happen for you, as it has happened for many of you, some who have been with me for years and others who came in last week, are making these connections. That's not Instructor Benjamin Bilal doing that. I don't even know most of you to be able to make those kinds of connections. But I know the structure of your brain and how it operates. And I teach based on that method. This is not an academic method that I use called Nunetics. It's a natural method of learning what your brain is acclimated to learn. What we say, bi'idhnillah, by the permission of Allah. Only Allah could permit this level of learning because animals, your common animal is not learning this the way we're learning it. Your common animal is not a speaker. They don't use their mouths and their throats and their nervous system to speak a language. They bark, they meow, they hoot, they howl, and that's their means of communication, and it's very limited. Allah has given the human being a method of speaking and communicating that, my goodness, is practically unlimited. He's also given us the ability to cuss and fuss, call each other all out of our names, debase each other, because Allah allows. But what he loves is what we're interested in knowing about. Because throughout the Quran, it says that Allah loves this, that, and the other. And it says that Allah does not love this, that, and the other, but he allows it. But be careful, because if he doesn't love it, it has a limited amount of time to manifest and do what it wants to do outside of Allah's will. So if we're doing anything that we know is outside of Allah's direct will, be careful, because it is severely limited. That's why even the English language is running its course now. And the average commentator on your public news broadcast can't help but giving that broadcast and cussing and fussing in between the broadcast on live television. I would challenge you to find a television program where the people are not cussing and fussing now. You don't think that's weird? That you have to always watch your grandchild's eyes and ears when you're watching television because of what the person on the television might say in front of them? That used to be, wow, very unusual. Very unusual. But it's commonplace now. What's unusual now is to find a decent program for you and your children and your grandchildren to listen to. And Nunetics is even the answer to that, because as Nunetics becomes more and more popular, the frequency changes in terms of what you will allow into your system. And it will become as distasteful as indulging in some food product that you know is totally unnatural and distasteful to eat. After we become Muslims, those who were eating pork, it became distasteful to even think about having a pork sandwich or pork dinner, bacon and eggs in the morning. That became just to yourself because you changed frequencies. So your relative can be sitting next to you at the breakfast table, eating what it is they eat. And if what they eat even reaches our nostrils, we want to change seats. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We don't even want to smell it, because not that they changed meat necessarily. They didn't. They're eating the same thing that you used to eat. But you changed frequencies. Your frequency no longer matches what it is they are presenting. Some of us have changed friends because their frequencies are no longer matching. Some of us have changed mates, husbands and wives, because some of us have put our children out of the house because they disobey our edicts for being in the house. are rules and regulations for being in the house. You don't come in here smoking no stuff. This is not a house of people who smoke that stuff. And when I say smoke that stuff, that could be as simple as cigarettes. Many of us, you can't take that. We can't stand the smoke. And we used to be smokers. What changed for us? The frequency. Everything that Allah has created, He created it with a frequency that distinguishes it from other frequencies. The Quranic word al-Furqan means the determination. It represents a distinguishing of one thing from another based on what? Frequency. And that's why I believe that the word frequency or frequent, something done over and over and over again, comes from the Quranic word Furqan. It's just sitting there waiting for you to discover it. It's not a secret. It's only a secret to people who don't study and who don't pay careful attention to what they're studying. The FRQ in Furqan is the FRQ in the word frequent or frequently or frequency. And the sooner you recognize that, the more Allah is going to bless you to become the de facto leaders of this world that you're living in. Imam Muhammad spoke on it. Several people spoke on it. Lesser known people have spoken on it because they know how creation operates. And Allah has given me that same gift to determine how frequencies create the world. And there is no world outside of the frequency world. And frequencies are not a choice. You are born to follow frequency. And if you want to be something different, all you have to do is give attention to a different frequency. You want to live a higher life, a higher lifestyle, a higher existence. Think with higher thoughts. And don't let the other thoughts overrule your higher thoughts. It's really that simple. You don't have to go through any massive brainwashing techniques or anything like that, or give yourself shocks or anything to come into different thoughts. No, your higher thoughts naturally overrule your lower thoughts. Naturally. So all you have to do is decide to give up lower thinking, lower thoughts about things that really don't matter that much in life. And those lower thoughts are going to give in to the pressure being brought to bear by higher thoughts. So I'm going to go into my lesson today. That wasn't it. Believe it or not. That could have been a lesson. It was a lesson, but it wasn't the lesson. So I want all of you to pay meticulous attention to what's going to be said today in this part two subject of women or the woman, the woman. So I pray everyone is doing well today on this 12th day of October 2015. I am your instructor, Benjamin Bilal, and this is going to be good. Stand by. If you haven't put your seatbelts on, this is a good time to do it. So the beginning of what I'm saying here was said to you this time last week or last Sunday. We're going to try to get rid of the word weak because that works subliminally on the brain. When we're talking about the days of the so-called week, we're talking about the 7 strong days. The more we say weak, the weaker we get. And when we think about the weekdays, we're thinking about the work days. So your mind learns to associate the weak with work. And that keeps us weaker. So we're the ones who are shifting paradigms in language now. And that is why we're going to become the leaders of the linguistic world. It could happen in our lifetimes that we see that level of progress. We saw a dog the other day. I watched this show called The Dog Whisperer. Maybe some of you have heard of it. And it showed how quickly a dog who had been abused almost from birth, from a pup, that once the person who was abusing them was removed from their environment, that dog began to make progress like you wouldn't believe, like nothing ever happened. This also happens for individuals that you know. Abused children. There are still instances of subconscious remnants of abuse that have to be dealt with psychologically. But the physical manifestations of abuse are almost all of the way gone because Allah changes things just that quickly when you decide to do the right thing. So we said last week that mind is from min, and min is an Arabic word, but it is also found in the English vocabulary in words like miniature, which means smaller. So it means the same thing that it means in Arabic. In Arabic, it means from or of. When you separate a part of something from a bigger something, that thing that you separated is the smaller portion of the thing, a puzzle or whatever, a piece of pie that you cut for yourself. It's a smaller version or a smaller part of what used to be whole. So wherever you see that word min in the Quran, I want you to think about that. It's just a part. It's a representative part, but it's not the whole thing. So when Allah says that He created us min nafsin wahida, from an essential, what they translate as soul, then understand that the nafs is the whole thing, but He created us from a portion of that nafs, from min nafsin wahida. Your whole life is not summed up in that small part. Your whole life as a true human being is summed up in the cosmos itself, the universal scheme for life created by Allah, which has no end. It has no portioning out, no apportionment. It has no, this is your part and you can't have any more. I'll prove it from the Quran before I get really, really into the lesson. Allah says, وَابْتَغِي فِيمَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنْ الدُّنْيَا. To seek with all that Allah has made available to you, your home in the hereafter, al-akhirah. However, do not forget your share from the dunya, of the dunya, the material world. So even the material world is not the whole picture. And when he says your share, he says nasibaka, your personal, individual share, or what you might call on the street, your cut. Did he get his cut yet? The very idea of cut means it came out of something else or from something else, right? So he didn't say your 66% share. He didn't say don't neglect or don't forget your 32% share as a shareholder in creation. We're all shareholders in Allah's creation, but Allah has not put a specific ceiling on what the share should be. That gives us the incentive to go for as much as you could get. The reason we're poor is because we don't know that we're supposed to be going for all that we can get. We think that's greedy. Allah says in the Quran that certain people who will remain unmentioned, they say that Allah is poor. and we are rich. But it says, but Allah is rich. He's El Ghani. He is rich. It's not Allah that's poor. So why would a rich Allah give you such a poor portion? Portion. He owns the entire universe. He's Malik. He owns all of this. Malik Yawm Din. He owns all of this, and he owns what comes after this. But he's only going to make you or allow you to make, $10,000 a year. He's only going to allow you, you know, to live in the worst housing in America, to live in the ghettos of America. No. The reason we're living in ghettos and the reason that we're poor in the pocket and poor in the mind in terms of education is because we've been fooled into that, into believing that that is our share. There's so much to learn. And that's why I say, if you study what I'm giving you, there'll be no stopping you. The only way you will stop is if you say to yourself, I've had enough. I don't really want, I can't manage any more than this. But the wise man and woman says, I will manage as much as Allah allows me to get my hands on. Because if you're in your right mind, everything you get, if you're a true human, you're going to want to share it. When you have children in your house, do you get stuff that you know they can use and then not allow them access to it? That doesn't make sense. You have a nature in you that says share. The reason you want to get more is because you want to share more with your family. And then when your family is okay, then you want to share with your neighbors. When your neighbors are okay, then you want to go cross town, see who needs. And then when it gets to the point where it's not even people that you know personally, you still want to share. That's called ethics. When you give to places in Africa and in Asia and in Europe and in these war-torn Ukraines and these places that are war-torn, Gaza is the best glaring example of that. If you can't do anything physically about it, in your heart, you still want to do something about it. That's the human spirit in you doing that. So the fitra is the parent of nature, and nature is neutral. It's neither male nor female. The concept of feminine in science is not a gender, but a principle of operation taking place in nature itself. The masculine principle in nature is one that goes out in search of. When the male goes out in search of a job, in search of employment, in search of food, as a hunter, that's a masculine role. It does not mean that it will always be filled by a male. Sometimes a female has to do that, but there's more of a burden on her to do it if she has to take care of especially young children. It becomes complicated when she has to bear children, look out for their growth and development, protect them, and there's no man in the house to do so. And she still has to go out and work. That's a burden. And that has nothing to do with a woman being the weaker sex. In fact, you have to kind of call her the stronger, the stronger sex. If she's able to do that and work. So we should be creating a situation for our females that will allow them to work only if they want to and can, because it does not interrupt her motherly duties, which are a priority duty. Educating your children, teaching your children the difference between what is good and acceptable and what is bad and not wanted as behavior. That's a full-time job by itself. And any female in her right mind, if she could do that uninhibited, she'd be more than happy with just doing that. the contribution she's making to society when she teaches her children correctly. There's a bigger reward in that than you working for whoever you think the richest man on earth is, Elon Musk or Trump or whoever you think, and you want to go work for them, but leave your children neglected. Man is both masculine, linear, and feminine, spiral. This is man. And when I say man now, I'm talking about the male and the typical male, not all of the in-between versions of what a man is. I'm not talking about that. What society has decided all of a sudden is a man. That could be anything. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the man that is born out of Allah's fitrah, who's born male and grows to be masculine. They hid the secrets of these words and for these words in the word itself in terms of the English language. And they teach their children that these words are coded so that their children will start looking for the nuances that are buried within the word. It's not that they're buried, they're actually right in front of your face. But because they don't teach you to put the emphasis on these words, you can't find the words, you don't find the words, and you think that the language is some kind of esoteric something that you can't get access to, but that's not true. You just have to learn how to look. In the word masculine is the word line. In the word feminine is the word nine. So start there. How is he a line? How is he this arrow? Because his mind likes to go from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm speaking to the wives out there now, or the sisters, or the women out there. I don't know if you've noticed that when you go to the supermarket with a male, more than likely he gets a specific thing. He goes right to that aisle, he picks it up, he puts it in his cart, and he's off to the checkout counter. But most females will go in the same supermarket looking for something specific. Box of salt, it could be anything. But her tendency is not to go from the salt aisle to the cash register. Her tendency is to go from aisle to aisle to aisle to aisle to aisle, the next aisle to aisle. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That's her tendency. She's spiraling. He's walking a straight line. There's nothing inferior or superior about either of these methods. This just happens to be the natural tendency of males, and this just happens to be the natural tendency built into females. She's got to cover all of the bases. Why? Because of her inherent role as a possible mother. She's got to look at all of the checkpoints. She's got to duck and dodge in between the aisles and see what's in there. Is there anything dangerous there? Is there anything advantageous there? Anything I can bring home to the family in here? She's got to do all of that swerving and swiveling. Allah even put swerves on her hips to remind her that she's not linear in her thinking. This is wonderful. Every baby is born upon a feminine principle, normally in the 9th month. Some babies are born in the 7th month. Some babies are born in the 8th month. Some wait until the 10th month. But normally, the average child is born between the 9th and the 10th month of pregnancy. The very universe is also born based on a feminine principle, We're going to look into this just a little bit deeper than we did last week. This is the top of the average baby's head after being born. It has they didn't take it to a hairstylist. They didn't take this baby to Cassie's curls and things. This is the baby's natural swerve. If they have this level of hair, it's going to go round and round and round, right in the area where beneath it will sit the developing pineal gland or organ. And they call it the baby's soft spot. The mother, if she's educated, will tell people, please don't touch the top of my baby's head. It's still developing. If you feel it, you'll see how soft it is. Don't do that. You make the wrong move, put the wrong kind of pressure there, the baby's damaged for life, maybe. So the very universe is also born based on a feminine principle. If you look at the galaxy and how it is designed, it's designed exactly like the top of this baby's swirl. Same design. The fitra demands, it demands that we make this kind of comparative analysis. If you're not doing that with creation and created things, then you're not thinking on the level of fitra. And if you're not thinking on the level of fitra, you're not thinking on the level of nature and nature's ayat or instructing signs. You're not paying any attention to the instructions when you're in the classroom of Allah. And those are usually the people who flunked out. They get what's called the left back, not right back, left back. Learning is a feminine activity. In the Quran, in the Arabic language, the female is called a untha. And I believe the word enter comes from the word untha when you understand these consonantal connections. Teaching is a masculine activity given to us in the Quran in the word dhakr. And dhakr, I believe this word thinker, I've heard some other scholars allude to that, that the word think and thinker come from the word dhakr. And dhakr is masculine. You can hear even in its pronunciation that dhakr is electric. And electricity is a masculine property in the universe, whereas magnetism is feminine, a feminine activity in the universe. Feminine means that you're going to draw things towards you. That's what entering is. When you draw things towards you that enter you, like the sperm enters the womb, like the number 9 enters the door and keeps circling in search of. So learning is feminine. I'm giving you hints and clues in language now that you can go look at these entities now, scientifically or just culturally. And you'll get a lot of information that's going to lead your logic in the right direction for expanding whatever it is you thought you knew before this, even if you have the best of degrees. Nunetics is still going to expand you beyond your bounds, further than any professor could have taught you in school, because they don't know this. So when you look at the classroom and you look at the teacher, even though she in this picture is a female, she's performing a masculine duty of teaching, of helping these children to think better, directing their minds and even directing their emotional output. Why are you crying about that, child? Because there's nothing to cry about. Your mama does the same thing when she teaches you. When she's teaching you, she is dhakr. In fact, in the Quran, Allah calls the female dhakrat because dhakr is not a physical job necessarily. It's a job that you're doing as an activity related to other things that do that same thing in the fitrah. Other things in the fitrah instruct. The traffic light is dhakr. It's giving you instructions. It's causing you to think, whoa, if I step out now, I could get hit by a truck. So let me just wait. So it's not just the physical male and female that the Quran is referring to when it uses these terms untha and dhakr. And Allah says in the Quran that the dhakr is in no ways like the untha. They translate that as the male is in no ways like the female, but that's not what the Quran is really saying. It's talking about a process taking place in the natural development of created things. You can say the same thing about electricity and magnetism. You can say that the electricity is in no ways like the magnetism. And what are you saying when you say that? Ask a biologist or ask a physicist what that means to him or her. And they'll say, well, I believe that includes the understanding that electricity is not as utilitarian as magnetism. They'll tell you that electricity comes second. It's a secondary power in the universe. The first primary power in the universe is magnetism. Just like the first primary in this world or universe is magnetism. You have to be drawn to something to benefit from something. You have to first be drawn to it. You won't learn anything if you're not drawn to reading and writing and investigating, searching things out. That's masculine. But what you take in is more important than your gazing at a page. What you're taking in, that magnetic property in your brain that is soaking up information, is more important than what you think you're teaching somebody else as output. I'm trying to give this to you in some scientific language so that you'll have a good trail to follow when this lesson is said and done. The proto-root word for Nisaa, which is the word that they say means women, the proto-root word that means two-letter root is Nun Sin Aleph. The Aleph is just a tail for the letter Sin. It's not to be separated as an actual letter. So the true letters are Nun and Sin for Nisa, which is a reference to the seed's covering. Every seed has a shell. Every seed has a covering. I'm speaking to a couple of people in the class now who are actual farmers. They grow things in their yards and in their fields. They know what I'm talking. They could give you more on this than I can give you, actually. But every seed has a cover, and the cover makes whatever is within the seed obscure. You can't see beneath the hull or beneath the seed's covering. You only know what's in there because of the experience that you have with that seed in the past. I put this in the past. in the seed, covered it with the soil, gave it some water, and that's how I got these watermelons. But if you didn't have the experience, you would know what to tell people about what that is because it is obscure. It is in the ghaib before it becomes manifest as an object. So the seed's covering, that's nun. And there is a covering of the potential that's in the seed. And that's the same as saying that there's a covering of the potential that is laying dormant in the intellect, which is what the letter sin means. The letter sin is referring to the intellect, is referring to that which will give you light, like the sun gives you light, like the sunnah is supposed to give you light for your life. That's what the letter sin represents. But the letter sin also represents that which droops, like your bottom lip, and it can cover what's beneath it when it droops. So anything that covers over or obscures something else is under that meaning that can be applied to the letter sin. Staff or stick in which cattle or beasts are driven is another meaning for Nisaa. Follow this carefully. It's new, so pay attention. Staff or stick, which is used for herding cattle or beasts. Beast is just a reference to animals of this nature, four-footed animals that are not immediately civilizable. I think I'm making up a word here. They're not immediately or easily civilized. And we use them to drive these animals to a particular destiny. The elongated medda vowel in the word Nisaa indicates eternity or that which is long lasting. Wherever you see this medda in a word, it represents something that is long lasting. There are many words given to us in the Quran that don't normally have meddas. One of them is the word sama' and samawati. Samawat, which means sky and skies. They usually translate it as heavens, the seven heavens, etc. As samawati, but it's not pronounced like that in ordinary Arabic. In ordinary Arabic, it's just as-samawat, as-samawat. But Allah gave it a medda in both places, as-samawati. Why? Because it's not talking about the physical skies above your physical head. Allah did not have to tell you that that was elevated property above your head. Even the child knows when he goes outside to look up at the clouds and where the sun is coming from or where the sun is going. He knows that that's a spacious real estate up there. He knows it's elevated. He can't reach it. He stands on his tippy toes and he still can't touch the clouds. But when it's given an elongation, it represents something that is seemingly eternal. Like every day you wake up, you see this. And it is also long lasting. Again, every time you wake up, it's there waiting to greet you. And sometimes the actual physical daylight seems like it will never end in July and August, those months. people who are fasting in those months, they can't. What is that guy? Do not like fasting in the summertime because the days are 16 hours. I can't take it. But that's what these elongations in the Quran are attempting to teach us. And the word ma' for water is not talking about water per se. It's talking about our directed thoughts. Clouds represent thoughts, and the clouds are the vehicles which carry the water in the sama or as-samawat. And those clouds carry seeds called rain. Look at the shape of a raindrop. It's exactly the shape of the seed, which drops into the soil, which produces the agriculture that we benefit from. In the surah called the Sabah, Sheba, Surah 34, Ayat 14, look at what Allah says. Then, when we decreed Solomon's death, nothing showed them his death except a little worm in the earth, which kept slowly gnawing away at his staff. That's all we need for what it is we're trying to tell you. What is the word, the Quranic word for staff?
Minsa.
There you go. Minsa. That's right. Thank you, Abu.
Welcome, sir.
Yes, it's right here. Minsa. There's your Nisa. Let's find it in the transliteration. It's right here. Minsa. Okay. So don't think that these concepts, because they sound new to your ears, that it's new as something invented by Instructor Bilal or some other teacher or professor or whatever. No, we're not inventing these things. We're not making them up. We're showing you that many of the people who have been in charge of telling us what words mean from the Quran have been, in effect, steering you like cattle in a particular direction. So they find that word wherever it's mentioned in the Quran and they start translating it in a way which will naturally make you believe that it means this, that, or the third. In this case, that it means women. They have to go to everywhere that word is mentioned and just try to bamboozle you or pull the covers over your eyes or tell you, oh, it means 3 and 4 different things, even though those 3 and 4 different things have no relation. What relationship does a woman have to a staff, a stick? See, they have to fool you like that to stay consistent so that they can make their narrative the go-to narrative for understanding the Quran. When all along, there's some nefarious meaning that they are attempting to teach, not attempting, that they have taught, that has caused the whole Muslim world practically to believe that Nisa means females or women. What's the word for one woman? Bet you can't find that in the Quran. This is plural, Nisa. But where's the word for one? I'll let you work on that. Now I'm going to say some things to you that are not in my notes, but that is important, that are important for you to understand what it is we're discussing. It's beautiful to look out at the pictures and see people studying so diligently. That's a great picture. I might take a snapshot of this and put it on my wall. It's great. Now, those of you who are Christians or who have been Christians, you know that the primary female in the Bible brought to us through the book of Genesis, first chapter of the Bible, the primary female is Eve, Eve. So there's a lot to be learned about what a female is and what a female is not by studying the characters in the Bible that are given as females. In the Arabic language, the word for Eve is Hawa. So make a note of that. Hawah. Hawa. So they say Adam wa Hawa, or Adam and Eve, when they're talking about them as a couple. However, Allah never ever mentions those two in that regard as Adam wa Hawa, or Adam and Eve. There's no name Eve in the Quran. People think there is because they're just listening to translations by people who tell them that they're scholars. They talk about Adam and Eve all throughout the hadiths, so-called, and throughout other Islamic literature, so-called. But they rarely tell their congregations that there is no Eve per se, because if there were, you would see the Arabic word Hawa. You see other related words to the sound Hawa, such as Ihwa. But what does Allah say about Ahwa? Ahwa means your desires. Ahwa means your lower level desires and aspirations. The low level, when we were talking about the chakras, you know what I'm talking about. Those levels that are concentrating mostly on materialism, material world, survival, what I can get, how I can get it. Talking about human socialization, who I'm going to mate with and have children and a family by. Those desires that are in you, those are called your urges. Your urges. We'll get back to that word. It's an important discussion for what we're discussing. But this is what Eve represents in the Bible. The word Adam has a meaning in the Bible also. And it also has a meaning in the way that it is presented in the Quran. Remember, the Quran is a correction of misnomers and mistakes that have been made in all previous scriptures that are important enough for the Quran to have to mention it in order to make the correction. It's not telling you, don't believe in the Bible. Don't be a Christian. Don't this, don't that, don't accept anything except what is in the Quran and the Sunnah, or the Quran and the Hadith, and that's religion, and everybody else who doesn't believe that is going to hell. No, that's not what the Quran teaches. I'm sorry. That's not what the Quran tells you. Allah says that to Allah is the final destination of all of you, and then He will determine who's who from who's, because some of the people you're thinking are kufar and kafir and munafiq, they're in the Muslim crowd. Many of them are on the Muslim line, waiting for their cheese. That's not what this is talking about. These are dispositions within the human psychological makeup. These are not groups of people These are groups of things that people aspire to be and things that they aspire to do, and sometimes things that they conspire to do. So what we're doing now is simply relearning terms, or I should say learning them for the first time. What these things are actually factually saying. In the English language, we all know that the word evening represents the setting of the sun. That means the sun is about to go bye-bye. When the sun is coming up and projects the same level of light, which is dim at, sunrise, we don't call that evening. They have an equally detestable word for it called morning. They call it, we mourn when things die. The sun is supposed to be bringing things to life when it comes up. But these wicked manipulators of language, they like to invert meanings for words so that you will believe and teach others these manipulated meanings. I'm trying my best to be as clear as I can be using your language, English. So Hawa is related to Ahwa, and Ahwa is related to your low desires. Look at what Allah says in the Quran. He says that there is no worse creature on earth than those who take their ahwa as their ilah. No worse creature than those who take their ahwa, their desires, their materialistic ambitions, their appetites, unchecked by knowledge, as Allah calls it in another place. That's what he calls the ahwa, appetites, unchecked by knowledge. There's no intellectual anything in these appetites. There's no mental improvement. There's no emotional maturing of anything. There is just the desire, raw, unchecked desires. And that word desire is DE-SIRE. And if you know what a sire is a king. That's Old English language, sire. When you desire something or somebody, it's the same as dethroning something or somebody. The same thing. So they're removing your true ability to be an authority. A king is the authority in his kingdom. Kingdom is kingdom. That's another word they hid from us. The kingdom are those who are ruling based on a healthy kingdom. That's your dome right here. This is your dome, the top of your head, just like the king wears the crown that is supposed to regulate what's going on in the dome. They gave us another English word called a freedom that originally began as freedom, the freedom to be an authority, the freedom to think, freedom, the freedom to rule over things after evaluating those things and understanding the purpose of these things. They said, no, 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 that's too much power for these people. We can't regulate them like that. We can't choose for them if they're thinking for themselves. So let's reduce their abilities down to just being free, but free to be dumb. Isn't that something? That's how they have us pronounce it. Freedom. D-U-M-B. Which leads us now to Adam. These things are connected. But A on the beginning of many words represents a negative or a negating of something, to say something is not that. So when Allah gives us Adam, he's saying that the creature he created is not dumb. They made him dumb when they gave him freedom. The people creating the biggest stink on earth right now are people who are fighting in the name of freedom. Freedom to be any gender I want to be. Freedom to live in any country I want to live in. I'll just cross the border, or I'll, whatever. I'm not trying to start a political fight. I'm just showing you an example without mentioning any names. Freedom in the government to do what I want to do, to take these people's monies. This is across the board. This has nothing to do with political anything. This has to do with theoretical ideas, how they have set this entire world up on theoretical premises that have really nothing to do with political differences. They're fooling you with the political differences when they are all practicing the same scheme. And the red and the blue are just the Eve and the Adam, or the Adam and the Eve, brought to you all over again as those two characters are presented in the Bible. The Bible says that Adam was created from red clay. That's what Adam means in the Bible, red clay. And Eve is there to symbolize the blue. As in evening, the sky turns blue and then black. And we wonder why we exist in a world right now where the two most popular gangs are the Bloods and the Crips. Blood is red, and Crip means dead. When you die, your skin turns blue. So I'm saying this to you so you know that this is no new scheme. It is age old. That's right. The police sirens are red and blue also. The emergency squads. Absolutely correct. Now, when it comes to the Quran, those things that had been separated artificially within the human being are being systematically and sophisticatedly brought back together. So Adam and Eve were artificially separated. Adam and Eve were separated, and we were made to think that Adam came first and Eve came as an afterthought. Where in the Bible, God says, I think he needs a helpmeet. He looks kind of lonely over there in the corner next to that tree. I think he needs a mate to keep him company. And then it says that Allah reached into his chest cavity and pulled out a rib. No anesthesia or nothing. Just pulled out a rib and began operating on an Adam that had been put into a deep sleep. He was anesthetized in that manner, put into a deep sleep. And then Allah created from a rib of Adam what it calls a woman, but God never named her. Read the Bible. If you don't have one, you should have one. As a student of these kinds of thoughts, don't think because you're a Muslim you can't read the Bible. I know some Muslims teach that. Astaghfirullah, brother. You're reading the Bible, the shirk. They say Jesus is the Son of God. That's shirk. I can name 20 different things right now off the top of my head that Muslims think is Islam. That is shirk. That's not what today's class is for. But trust me when I tell you that Instructor Bilal can name at least 20 things that are either semi-shirk, if there's such a thing, or de facto, deep diving, deep in the water levels of shirk. And 70 of those things relate to the one that they teach us is Muhammad. Listen to how I said that. I didn't say it was Muhammad. I said it's what they teach us as Muhammad, including and up to the idea that Muhammad can intervene for you. He can be an intercessor for you in the judgment. Allah's about to bring down his edict. This person did these sins, and I'm going to punish him with these crimes. And Muhammad can step in and say, "Oh, whoa, 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 Allah, come on, not my boy. He's been good sometimes, hasn't he? Oh, yeah, forget the rest, Allah, and give him, you know, the benefit of the doubt." And Allah said, "Okay, my servant Muhammad, I love you so much." A human can do that? Just have Allah change his mind in the middle of a decree? Well, he just separated Muhammad from all of us. So who is this Muhammad in the Quran that says, "Ana basharun mithlukum"? I am a mortal just like all of you. Who's this Muhammad in the Quran that says, "I know not what the future will bring and what the..." He wasn't no soothsayer. He wasn't no predictor of future events in that manner, on that level. Who's that Muhammad? So they separated Muhammad. The one that told us you can marry four, but I marry as many as I want to. How about that? I have so much masculine prowess. We're still on the subject. What is a woman? I have so much masculine prowess and sex appeal that I'm going to be much more attractive to the average woman than you. So you stay with your four wives, and I'm marrying 9, 10, some say up to 12. And that brings me to another question. How come they don't know how many wives he actually had? Weren't they counting? Weren't they living in the same ummah, in the same community? They didn't know math. They had access to him for 23 years. They couldn't count his wives along the way. Oh, there he goes. He married another one. That's 7. Oh. He married, somebody. That's 8. And then by the time he passed, they should have known it was 12 or it was 9. So the big question is, how come they didn't know? But they teach us not to ask questions of the holy people and what they did in their lives. Muhammad asked questions about what his wives were doing. And Allah checked Muhammad on his decisions concerning what his wives were doing. So Muhammad didn't have any last word. And the Muhammad that they sold us is mythology. And I want you to really hear what I'm saying on this subject. The Muhammad that you think is the physical man walking around in what was not at that time called the Saudi, but just called Mecca, Arabia. That Muhammad has been presented to the entire world as mythology masquerading as fact. And if you want to know the singular reason why the Muslim world, generally speaking, is in as much doo-doo as they are in today in the world and in the world's eyes, it's because they have been trying to support the doo-doo more than the truth. The truth is in the pages of the Quran, and the other stuff, the BS, to put it mildly, is in all of the fabricated books of hadith and all of that stuff that came after that have nothing to do basically with the Quran. I'm not saying throw them all out in the trash. No, some of them are very valuable to understand the thinking process of people who lived in that day and time and the people who actually combed through some other literature that was related and said, well, let's put this in there also. You have to understand the effort that was afoot when these Muslims were doing what they did in these collections of so-called hadith. These leaders were trying their level best to rush and gain the support of the Muslim Ummah. They were strangers in the land of Iran, Persia, they call it, in the olden days. The Arabs were strangers. So they knew that they had to do something quick, fast. And they said, these people who are followers of Muhammad, this was the complaint coming from even the so-called caliphs. They said, they won't listen to us. They follow some of what we're saying, but they won't follow us like we know what we're talking about. So what are we going to do to help speed up the process of them gaining trust? As Bahina mentioned. Was it Bahina or Nawa? Nawa mentioned trust. How do we speed up the trust factor between the population of Muslims in the Ummah and them believing us and listening to us and accepting us as their leaders? They said, well, the first thing we need to do is develop a new title for ourselves. We will call ourselves Khalifs. That name didn't exist when Muhammad was here. That name is not in the Quran for people who are leading the Ummah. They said, let's call ourselves Khalifa or Khalif. They even took off the feminine ending. That should tell you something. They just snipped off the tail. It's not even Khalifa. They said, let's call them caliphs or Khalif. To show you the level of masculine worship that was amongst many of these people. The second thing we're going to do is give them a bunch of sayings and a bunch of information and a bunch of whatever we want to give them. And the easiest thing to do for them to get to follow us is to say Muhammad said it. Because they knew that these Muslims were so endeared to Muhammad, the Prophet, that they would not dare, even if they weren't there to hear it, they would not dare say he didn't say it if they said he did say it and they were his companions. So they said, just say Muhammad said it, narrated by Muhammad. This was heard by a person who heard it from another person who heard it from a third person and then heard it from a fourth person who heard it from Muhammad. Oh, you mean the end of that line is Muhammad? Yes. Okay, well, let's put that in there. Maybe we'll say it was weak, but he's still in there. So let's, just like the whole thing about the development of the 5 pillars. Buni al-Islam ala khams. Al-Islam is based upon 5. Ash-shari'ati an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah wa iqamu salat wa ita'i zakat wa hajj al-bayt wa sawmi Ramadan. Now that's not even in the order. And this was dictated by Umar, the companion Umar. But if you read the entire hadith, which they know most of us English speakers are not going to do, they know the majority of us are not going to do any deep research. We're too busy picking apples, killing sheep. We're not trying to be studying. That's why you have to really learn to trust your teachers. But you first have to validate that they're genuine teachers, not just because they have the name Sheikh on the front of their name or some other name that means I'm a teacher, I'm bona fide, accept me, believe me, trust me. No, that's not how it goes. We have all of these sheikhs in Muhammad's time. We have all of these muftis and ustads and all of these people. We have all of those titles back when Muhammad was walking the earth. Did he give those titles to those people? You don't even hear the title Imam, not from Muhammad's time, given to some person. It's in the Quran, but not like they gave it to us. I'm trying to be gentle. These words have deep and significant meanings, not just for people who have taken Shahada. The words of the Quran are universal and they have deep implications for all human beings. So if you're going to give me a meaning for Imam, it cannot be limited to the Muslim paradigm. As soon as you know it's relegated to just Muslims, you should leave it alone. How are you going to help other than Muslims with language that only appeals to Muslims? Who are you talking to except yourselves? Masjid should mean something universal. All of the names of these prophets and messengers and angels, they should have significance in your human world. As you socialize and fraternize with other humans or with yourself, first and foremost, you need to learn yourself first, and all of those elements are in you. The ummah. Yeah, there's physical yeah, there's a physical community. Yeah. Those are outposts of things that first and foremost are to be found within you. The social world is just a world that has been pushed out based on the concepts that you have taken in. Your family is an ummah. Isn't your mother an ummah? Why would it be strange to believe that your family, if that's all you know? And there was a time in the history of the world when that's all people knew were their immediate families. They grew to be a tribe when they started having cousins and uncles and all of that. Then they became a tribe. Then as that continued to grow, they became a nation. As that continued to, you see how it just keeps revolving because society is female. Ummah, that's feminine. So it goes like the spiral. It just keeps growing out, circling, coming back around, growing out another layer, just like an onion. So these are important things for us to understand. Now let's get back to the direct point of the information. Eve in the Bible, amongst the elect, those who have been in the know of language and religion and logic, they know that these words have been coded by many of their leaders who participated in the writing of these scriptures. How do you know that, instructor? The Quran tells me that they write the book with their own hands. It says, woe unto those who write the book, al-kitab, with their own hands and say, this is from Allah. And they do it to traffic with it, to make money with it for a measly price. So although they're making trillions of dollars in religion, at the end of that road, Allah is calling what they've made throughout all of those years, throughout all of that price gouging and whatever else they would do. Allah calls it a measly price. You know why he calls it a measly price? Because the price you're going to have to pay for doing that is going to make all of that seem like just a few pennies. Man, this punishment, and I'm getting, man, that $1 trillion that I had in my bank account, it's as though I only had $5 because of the punishment, is the point. So Eve, and this is a nugget that I got from Imam Wadathuddin Muhammad, giving proper credit to where credit is due. And I only heard him say it once. And I've never heard any of his imams repeat this because I think they just didn't know it because he only said it once, as far as I know. He said, Eve is commercialism. The world of commercialism. Now, how do we sync this up with the meaning of women, quote unquote, given to us in the Quran? Nisaa. I told you last week, and I'm repeating for you today, that Nisaa does not mean physical women. Nisaa means a feminine principle that is operating within your very human urges. Now, let's go back to commercialism. What is commercialism here to do? Is it here to appeal to your intellect? Or is it here to appeal to your urges, to purchase, to buy, to consume? Consume. Take a half a minute and think about that. But you don't need a half a minute. You know that commercialism is here to appeal to your appetites. From food to the latest car, it's all appealing to your urges for materialism on the most part. That's basically what the entire world of commercial products are appealing to, or appealing to your ego. Man, if I wear this, if I look like that guy, the women are going to love me. And unfortunately, that's what women are saying today's time. If I wear this, the women are going to love me. The world has become so out of sync that we have to ask further questions to determine whether or not this woman is even interested in a male. That she might just be interested in other women. Her business, that's her business. But I'm telling you that the world is becoming pushed out. The minds and the thoughts that they have sold us have become entertained, and just stuff has been reinvented as terminology that never existed in Allah's fitrah. But they give it to us so that we will contemplate these ideas on a consistent basis. And when the intellect does that, and it feeds off of information that it's used to hearing from time to time to time, over and over and over again, that is being fed to your feminine brain. That's being fed to your limbic brain. That's being fed to your cow brain, your herd brain. That doesn't have to be given a whole lot of ration. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even deal with rational or rationale. It's dealing with feelings and emotions. The limbic brain we're talking about. And all the subconscious mind has to do is be told something over and over again for it to accept it as the truth. The subconscious mind does not know how to lie. If a thing has been said over and over again and it's registering that frequency, it accepts it, generally speaking, as the truth. That's why most people are still broke. Because although they're gurus out here and they're economic advisors and that are out here feeding your conscious thoughts with images of wealth and success, and we go to these seminars that teach us how to be rich, by next week, and they give us a whole lot of terminology that we're just trusting that they know what they're talking about and they're rich. I should be rich if I do what they prescribe. But what they're leaving out is that if you don't make any attempt to adjust the information that had been fed to them for many, many, many years that have seeped into their subconscious mind, which is your real mind, that's deciding your real life. If you don't make any adjustments on that information that's appealing to your feelings above your intellect, then you'll still be of the losers. What have you lost? Your real mind because of what's been taught to you since childhood. We say, how can he believe that? He's an adult. How can he still be pushing Santa Claus in his house and teaching it to his children? And he knows it's a lie. It's a lie to your conscious mind when you think about it. But that story has been embedded into your subconscious mind because of all of the years that you were taught that. And the human being doesn't like to be embarrassed by saying, I used to believe that. So I'm not going to stop believing it. I'll just figure out a way to explain it. Oh, the children need this. Really? My children like this time of year. They get toys. You can give them toys without telling them to lie. Big man came down the chimney without getting burned. It was winter. They should have had it on, right? The fireplace. He came down, he got all these toys. He got enough toys for all of the children of the world. And he's distributing these toys, and what we don't realize is that they've turned all of us into their homes. They put it in their language. Who's been naughty or nice? Look up the word nice in a good dictionary. I'll leave that as your homework. All right, Adam? Yeah, look up the word nice in a good dictionary, dictionary of etymology, for instance. You can do it while we're sitting here. These are people who fabricate language in order to fit their paradigm for directing us in a particular way. So Eve represents commercialism, and commercialism sells us items that placate our urges. You see the connection? Your urges need to be placated. They need, you see placate? It's just interchangeable with the consonants that you find in Iblis. The BLS is the PLC of placate. And pleasure, the PLS in pleasure. And when your pleasures are satisfied, oh, you're in heaven. And so are you when overindulging in commercialism. And they designed the commercials on television to appeal not to your common sense brain, but to your playful, gotta have that. I'm going to be better off with this. I'm going to be happier with this. They sell you pharmaceuticals. This is crazy. They sell you pharmaceuticals through commercials on television that show a happy couple hopping and skipping and jumping through the field. And it will help you alleviate the tension and that. But when you read the fine print, which they have to put at the bottom of the screen, they don't have to tell you, but they have to at least indicate that it will do so. It has a list, a laundry list of, oh man, stuff that it leaves you a laundry list of stuff that's worse than the disease you're trying to fight with the medication. And they will tell you, including death, could cause severe diarrhea, 3 headaches a day, red eye, runny nose. fever, things that you didn't even have. This is what the medications, the pharmaceutical industry is pushing on the people. It's amazing, but that's commercialism. That's why Eve gave birth to the word evil. One more point and we'll be finished. Eve is what gave birth to habit. Key word for what we're going to be discussing when we open up the class for psychology of the soul. That's the word habit. The word habit is related to the word Eve. If you exchange the V in Eve for the B in habit, leave the IT off, it's a suffix. So the real word is hib and hub. Those are Arabic words. One means plant, the other one means love. Hibbun, that's love. So how does something become a habit would be the question. It's something that has to be repeated, first of all, as we said a minute ago, has to be repeated. The second way is that they have to get you to learn to love it. You are not going to repeat behaviors that you don't learn to love. If you don't love it and a slave master, a taskmaster is making you do it, as soon as he raises the whip and lets you go free, you're going to stop doing that behavior because you can't stand it. But if they teach you to learn to love it, even after the slave master says, you're on your own, you're going to still follow through on that habit because you love it. And that can be a mate that you're arguing with every day, but you learn subconsciously to attach yourself to that person to the point where you don't want to break with them because you love them. How many prostitutes have said that to their pimps? I don't want to leave you. They've said that to the police officers that came to arrest the pimp. I love him. She's got bruises, black eyes, and gouges in her head, blood dripping beneath her eye, black eye on the other side. And she don't want to leave this dude. She says she love him. He's not like this all of the time. That's her boo. That's your boo, all right. You turned yourself into a spook. This world is demonic in many regards. So when you learn to placate your urges is when you run into the most trouble. When you learn to satisfy your urges with a limit attached to that pleasure, to how you are experiencing that pleasure. When you learn to put a ceiling on it, a cap, that's when the urges can stay within their natural capacity. When the Quran is mentioning the Nisaa, there are some that are mentioned in the Quran as Nisaa that have put a cap on their behavior. But Allah says that when you go above board and beyond the limits, that's when He can strike you. I hope you're understanding this language. When your urges for material plenty, for going above and beyond the bounds that have been set by Allah for you, when those urges go above board and above and beyond what Allah has ordered for your life, then you have to strike her. Her. Who's her? Your emotions. That's where your urges, that's how your urges are being regulated by your emotions. your feminine emotions, male or female, your emotions are feminine because they let things in and things grow in there when you let them in. Things that you never intended to grow because you were an open vessel. You're supposed to cover your shame and yourself and not just let any ideas in there. The female is the prototype for that, but it's not talking about the physical female necessarily. This property is in every human mind that chooses to think. Allah put that capacity in every human being that reaches a point when your urges overtake you that you are supposed to give warning to those urges. You are then supposed to so-called separate the bed. I'm giving you the sequence in the Quran. First, to warn them. And that's what you do automatically already. You talk to yourself. When you know you're getting ready to do something, you ain't got no business. That man see this girl, he said, I gotta talk to her. She's just too fine to even be real. She can't even be a real woman. She's from, I've heard one man say, she's from Jannah. She's from paradise. She's one of the big-eyed maidens from paradise. She's not regular. I can't resist her. So Allah says, warn them first. This is your conscience. That's the number one topic of the Quran, your conscience. Then your emotions. Then your instinctive drives. In the same way I gave it to you in the triune brain, those three themes are the major themes in the Quran. So that you can regulate your individual life, not the life of people overseas somewhere, or them regulating your life over here in America from Mecca or from wherever they're from. That's not what the Quran is designed to do. Dictate to you what your life should be because of some ethnic connection or some ethnic superiority idea or something like that, or because we speak Arabic and you don't speak Arabic and the Quran is in Arabic, that means we know better than you, brother. So you need to do it the way we said do it because we speak Arabic, we are closer to Allah than you are in your English, because English is a bastard language and you cannot depend on the English to understand the Quran. And they go on and on, fooling you. You don't need to know Arabic to learn the Quran per se. I've told you that for many years. How many of you have learned the meanings of letters in the Nunetics letter system? All of you should raise your hands. You can raise your hands, but are all of the people raising their hands able to read Arabic? No, that's my proof. You don't need to know Arabic to understand the Quran. You just need to know the meanings of those letters in your English brain. So this idea connected to the psyche, which is the topic of concern, how you work psychologically. That's the topic of the Quran. Consciousness, subconsciousness, and what those things are doing inside of you, how they're to be regulated. When they go too far, you have to not strike them, you have to go on strike against them. How come we know we can use these words in English in these different ways, but when it comes to Arabic, we get stuck on stupid? Oh, it means to hit them with just a miswak, a toothbrush. I wonder who was the first to believe that. But they believed it, like I said earlier, because they attached Muhammad's name to it. The Prophet told us that if it's with a miswak and you're making a correction and you have to tap her, you can't leave any bruises on her face. You just tap her and say, "Sister, you cannot act like that in my house." You believe that? I know you don't. So bring me somebody who you know believes that. They need some help. Is this word toothbrush in the Quran? Then they say beat. It says you can beat her lightly, but they put lightly in brackets, which means it's not in the Quran. You can beat her lightly. Yes, all three of those levels, consciousness, emotions, and instincts are inside of each and every one of us. And the Quran has been revealed to show us the best way to regulate all three and keep them consistent and working with each other, planning with each other, servicing each other without major interruptions or conflict, especially coming from outside of you. You then become the best decision maker for you. It's not your wife or husband. It's not your children. You are the one giving it to the intellect. But when your emotions rise up in you and say, I want something different than this, and I know Allah doesn't allow this, but I want it anyway. My deep desires, my ahwa is calling for this. My hawa, my ahwa. Allah already told you that those who follow the ahwa, they're worse than he doesn't even say that the munafiq or the kafir is worse than the one who's elevating their ahwa, worshiping their desires. He calls that like the worst offense. So stop thinking about the Christians when you talk about the disbelievers and the munafiq, the hypocrites. Don't stop thinking about the bad Muslims who didn't pay you back your $10. He's a hypocrite. Oh, stop thinking. The no, it's not your grandmother. You know how many families they have broken up with that foolish ideology? Christians are the Catholics, and the Jews even worse. Get rid of all of them. Yeah, ain't a Jew worth living in today's world. That's what they're teaching, that stuff. The Jews are like the natural born enemy of everybody, especially the Muslims. Where did you learn that? The Quran talks about the people of the book and invites them to come together based on certain foundational principles. The major one being that we do not worship any but Allah. Now, that doesn't mean be Muslim. You're thinking about Allah with your Arabic brain. And they've manipulated a lot of the words in the Quran to reflect that idea that this is calling the world to one religion, Islam, as we preach it. And the we is going to be determined by what school of thought you follow. So they don't mean as we, the Muslims, preach it. They mean we as the Wahhabi, we as the Sunni, we as the Shia, we as the whatever school of thought that Allah says we should not be breaking ourselves into sects. It says, do not divide yourself into Shia. That's the word for sect, S-E-C-T. Don't do that. But when you do that, Allah says that you will separate from yourself and your power will diminish. Look in the world of Muslims and tell me if that's not what they're following. And then you want me to follow you. No, how much should I follow you and you're going against the guidance that Allah put in the Quran for me? Don't divide yourself into Shia. When you look at your family and you say they're Christians, therefore I'm Muslim and I can't gather with them, I can't go eat dinner with them, I can't this, that, and the third. When you say that, you don't realize how wrong you are. Do you have to eat the pork on the table? Really? When you go see grandma on Thanksgiving or whatever, her birthday or whatever. Do you have to eat the pork because the pork is in the kitchen being cooked? If you eat fish, like my wife does, but she's severely allergic to fish, does she have to eat the fish just because it's considered halal? So why do you think you have to eat the pork just because we know it's haram? This is a teaching moment for you. Say, no, grandma, I can't eat the pork. She gonna ask you, what's wrong with the pork, baby? You know your grandma. What's wrong with the pork, baby? This is a teaching moment for you. So yeah, grandma, I know it's food, but there are just certain things that are attached to the pork or to the pig that I don't believe is best for my digestion or best for my consuming of. I don't make it a religion when I'm talking to her. I don't say because Allah said it. And whatever Allah says is what no, I don't turn that into a whole into a khutbah about pork. And I'll tell you something spooky. Some of the food you're eating might very well be pork. Can I go a little deeper on that for 2 minutes? Some of the food that we think is something else as food is actually pork. Some of the salmon. See, you got to watch the shows that me and Adam and William and Noah watch. Stop watching that other stuff on TV. You got to watch some of the stuff that we send to you or suggest for you. I learned about 10 years ago when I was still teaching in the Masajid that scientists, biologists and scientists have found a way to genetically mutate the genes of certain animals, such as the pig and also the salmon. And they found a way to genetically modify the pig so that it actually and literally becomes salmon, but with pig genes, pig DNA. So here we are thinking that we're eating a perfectly halal dish when you're eating a perfectly haram fish. And you're scolding the other people about their pork. And you're there swimming up the river without a paddle. So don't be so quick to judge people, is my point. Follow the logic of the Quran and make it apply to yourself first. Don't worry about what the other people are doing first. When you get to the point where you feel like you've elevated your own soul to the point where you can give advice to others in a way that makes sense to them, in a way that you can help elevate them and bring them along and not offend them unnecessarily, when you believe you've gotten to that point in your deen, when you can give that kind of advice, you'd be able to stand on the street corner with the pimps and the prostitutes and teach them. You don't think that's what Muhammad was doing? Some of the people that he gathered as his closest companions came from that life. And they criticized him in the Quran for that. Musa, particularly, the meanest of the people, is what the Quran refers to them as. You're going to follow the meanest of the people? Meaning the lowest of the people with the lowest elevation or the lowest frequency rate on planet Earth. Those are the people you talk to every day, Muhammad? Yes. And look at what many of them became. So we have to stop this foolishness, separating ourselves artificially from the rest of our human family. Buddhists, you don't know a thing. You couldn't give me 2 minutes on what a Buddhist is, but you don't like the Buddhist. I'm talking generally now, not to you specifically. The Zoroastrians, there's not that many of them on Earth, a few thousand, I guess. But they supposedly worship fire. But you don't know anything about them. You say they're fire worship. I'm not going to a surface where they're worshiping fire. Astaghfirullah. That's shirk. I'm not even going to that church over there. They're hooping and hollering and all talking in tongues, and I'm not going. Well, how are you going to ever introduce to them a new idea if you won't even go see what the original idea is? Gang. Let me tell you something. Any of the problems that we're dealing with in society right now can be ended by you. Not necessarily you, the individual, you, the frequency. You're so busy trying to find the goody good people to just be with, the goody two shoe people, but you're overlooking your mission. when Allah does something over again, it's because the first time it was done, there were errors in it. Allah sent the original message to Muhammad, the Prophet, and they cleaned up a whole society. And they had a particular methodology by which they did that. Al-Islam has now come to the most rejected, dejected people on planet Earth, called the American Negro, on the most part. Look at the faces. Most of you are from those people that they call the Negro. And Negro is from necro, and necro means dead. So they knew we were dead, mentally, morally, spiritually, academically, in every other way. And the reason they knew we were dead is because they killed us. They killed us. This world killed us before we had a chance to grow. And the thing that's keeping us the most stuck is that we learn to love our demise. You'll have a forever slave, like I told you earlier, if you can convince these people to love the thing that you're putting on them. So your pleasure will make you a greater slave than your pain. Your pleasures. People are more enslaved by pleasures than they will ever be by pain. Pain has its limit. Even in the world of what they call the Kama Sutra, they tie you up and beat you and whip you and call it sex. Even in that world, there are limits. You start getting lacerations and bruises that you can't explain to your wife after your girlfriend whipped you. You don't want to explain to her that your girlfriend did that, or somebody you paid money to did that. So you got to make excuses. I was hit by the Uber. You got to go through changes. And then you just get tired of lying like that. And you say, well, I better stop doing this, or I better explain to her that I got a problem. I have a fetish. Help me. But pleasure, oh man, unlimited. Yes, that pain is going to have a natural point at which it runs out. And you say, I can't do this no more. It's called, listen to this, excessive pain to the point where you can't take it anymore. Is called cloying. C-L-O-Y, ing, cloying. Look that word up. And it's a play on the word claw, clawing, C-L-A-W. And claws are normally found on animals, but that's what it's called, cloying. When they push your appetites to their natural limits till you can't take it. It's the same thing as when somebody gives you so much cake and ice cream that you just can't, you don't have room for anymore. Some people get to the point where when they look at that thing again, they get sick. What is that? Is that chocolate? Please take that out of the room. Your mind is something in the brain that says this ain't right. And you push it away. You leave it alone. We only have a few more minutes, so be patient with me. Right? That's called clawing. That psychology was built into the false ideology of Christianity and Christian teachings. Roman Christian teachings, Roman Catholicism. That idea was built into the idea of Jesus being crucified and having nails put in his hands and feet, when you already have nails in your hands and feet. You have fingernails already in your hands. You have toenails already in your feet. But they understood that they were effectuating a meaning that was symbolic when they gave you that picture or that story. That what is holding you back, listen, this is probably the heaviest thing I'm going to tell you in this session, and then we're through. What is holding you back are the claws, are the nails. That's what's causing you to not be able to make any progress because they have nailed you down effectively, nailed you down. What is a nail? In the sense of the fingernail or toenail, it is a material in the body that can feel no pain. You can cut them, you don't feel it. In the toes, you can cut them. Same thing with the hair. And that leads to the idea of the crown or the crown of thorns. A thorn, what is a thorn? A nail, what do you call that? The thing they nail, they hammer into the ground or into the wood.
Steak.
Stake. Yeah, right. You see what I'm saying? So all it's designed to do is keep you in one place. This is the psychology that they use on unsuspecting people around the world. How they keep unsuspecting people around the world in one place. You know how they tell you, stay in your place. That's what they're talking about. Nigga, stay in your place. Or from some other part of the world. You can't just come here and run rampant. You got to stay in your place. It's a psychology, is what I'm saying. And once you understand the psychology, you know how to break free. So what does the Quran say? He was neither killed nor crucified, but it was made to appear as such. Deep psychology in that statement. And it has nothing to do with physical anything. It has nothing to do with a physical cross. It has nothing to do with physical nails and hammers. It has to do with symbolism and what that symbolism is suggesting. Nailing Jesus to a wooden cross and putting a body up there in the same shape as the cross is called the double crossing. You heard of that term? I've been double crossed. They're laughing behind the backs of many Christians because they know this is what it represents, but they can never say it out loud. People will leave that religion like there's a roach infestation if they told them that this is the real meaning for that you have been your pastors and your preachers and these other people who have been teaching this doctrine have actually double crossed you. So all you got to do is accept the pure manifestation of the truth that you find in nature. You don't have to read the Quran for that. In nature. How do you stop the progress of things in nature? By deception. You put poison on the food. You think the animal knows that's going to kill him? No. Every time you seek to kill a creature in the fitrah without them knowing what's going on, you appeal to something they like and you give them enough of it so that the first few pieces of it that they swallow kills them. That's what they have done to all religions, basically, including Islam. The first few pieces you eat kill you. When I say you, who am I talking? You, the true human. Because separation is the first stage towards death. If you ever had somebody die around you, and I've seen it several times, the first thing you do is prepare to separate the body from other living entities. First thing the police will do at a crime scene if somebody's been murdered, put a cover over him, separate his face, his body from the public's view. So what if the first thing that's done in your religion is that they separate you from the rest of the people? I'm a Muslim now, I can't talk to you. I'm a Muslim now, I can't eat with you, grandma. I'm a Muslim now, I can't do you separating you. They're separating you. because that's what cults do. I know I'm stepping on some toes in YouTube land right now, but that's what cults do. The first rule of a cult is to separate you from the majority of people who look like you, think like you, act like you, do what you do normally. So instead of you attempting to institute a plan to help change and evolve and raise the frequencies of those people, they say just leave them to stew in their own whatever they call it. Just leave them there to suffer. Let them learn like we learned. So that's the lesson for today. Any ideology that teaches you to unnaturally separate yourself. I'm not talking about situations where, these people are just violent for violence sake. And I'm not saying go fraternize with them and be friends with them. Not when they're in that mind state. No. Sometimes you got to leave them and let circumstances teach them that what you're doing is incorrect. It's the wrong road. Sometimes they have to die before they won't realize it. They'll be dead and gone. Gang banging, drug using, alcoholism. They'll be dead. They'll just shrivel up in front of you. And if you can't help them, they just die. Allah is neutral. Allah is not crying because they're dying. Allah is neutral. It's the human being's job to raise the frequencies to the point where what is neutral begins to register a natural position, a position of nurturing. So it's from neutral to nurture. This is how you should teach your children and your grandchildren. They grow from being neutral with a leaning towards what is right behavior. But a child will just as readily walk in the middle of your living room and piss on the rug if you don't put a diaper on them. Or if you leave them without a diaper, they'll poo-poo and on your cover, on your bed cover, and laugh. Are they evil? No, they're neutral. They'll put anything in their mouths until they realize I don't like this taste. Then they'll spit it out. But what do? We keep forcing it on them. Take this ice cream. This is good. Drink this soda. This is good. And the first time you do it, they're rejected. Some of them will act like you're trying to kill them. But if you do it 2 and 3, remember the brain, the limbic brain, keep repeating it. And it will accept it as though it's the truth. That's how when we say about things we like, hey, this is the truth. So before you know it, you got childhood diabetes. Before you know it, you got the diseases that come along with excessive pork consumption or excessive anything. Anything excessive will kill you, including water. So they give you the dirtiest water to drink. They give you the dirtiest jokes to repeat to other people. That's worse than dirty water. Every other line has an FUC, in it. And they're supposed to be trying to make you laugh. How is that congruent, though, with your high ideals coming from the Quran, but you're listening to the lowest language that you can find on YouTube? There's a clash there. There's a conflict. And by that means we are maladjusting our own souls. We're creating an artificial environment for the soul itself. And that's how you become soulless in the way Imam Muhammad mentioned. The elimination of the soul. That's the day and time he said we're living in. And you can see it as soon as you walk outside or turn the television on. Just keep watching. That's why we need to live community life. You see what we're doing right now? This is community life. We're not even living together, but you don't have to. You just have to stay in touch with each other, stay in contact with each other, set up classrooms and study buddies amongst each other. Community cannot be separated by flesh and blood because I'm here and you're there. Doesn't mean we can. We are creatures of the highest level of communication known to human beings, and that's language. We grow based on the things that go into these ears and into these eyes. I don't have to smell it to learn from it. You can just tell me it stinks and I'll stay away from it. You can tell me it's a rose and it smells like somebody's garden, and I don't have to be there, but I could still smell it from your description. The human being is the most sophisticated piece of art ever created by Allah, bar none. Nothing even comes close to what the human being can do. That's why they're trying to replace you. The AI effort is trying to replace you. What the president is doing now, the layoffs, the budget. We think these people are working separate from each other when they're actually working together to get rid of you and replace you. They showed a man one time. He had an AI robot for a wife. She had blue eyes, soft skin. When I say soft skin, I mean soft and warm to the touch. You'd only know by certain little indications that she's not really human. Other than that, this man was having you know what with this doll. And he said his reason for not wanting a real woman was this. He said they cause too much trouble. I don't want anybody who's going to bring me pain. Oh my goodness. He don't want no pain. He wants all pleasure. And he wants a slave is what he wants. Because that's what they had when they had most of us in chains. Somebody to do everything we wanted. The only difference was we were rebelling in our spirit. And sometimes we try to kill that MF, excuse the expression, while he was sleeping. We would kill their babies that were born because we were the ones giving birth to, giving the midwives and all. And we kill them and tell them something else happened because we don't want another slave master growing up in his house. But the AI robot, they don't have any such tendencies. So he can have the world he wanted. I'm talking about the demonic ones among them. They can have the exact world they wanted. But what they don't realize is that Allah is interfering with their plan. How, instructor, is Allah building an army? It doesn't have to happen that way. The army that Allah is building is Nunetics. If you can introduce a logic that defeats their logic, that's what Musa was all about. Rods and what do they call them? Rods and ropes. That's all they were using against Musa. Musa said, "Who should throw first?" I said, "You." They said, "You throw first." No, pardon me. Musa said, "Yeah." Musa said, "You guys, you throw first." And they threw their rods and their ropes, and they became like snakes. And then Musa threw his rod and his rope, and it says that it ate up all of the falsehoods that they faked. It became an anaconda type snake. Musa, this this snake, the language he was using. And it tells you very clearly, without any ambiguity, that it ate up all of the falsehoods that they faked. So you know it's language he's using. It's not his physical tongue. It's not a physical war. It's not a physical staff. Staff just means his support. Like I have you guys supporting Nunetics. I have a staff. That's what we call them in the world, isn't it? When you have a school, you say, I need to develop a staff. That's how he won his battle. That's how we're going to win ours. So thank all of you for listening. And I hand the microphone back over to William, who will do whatever's necessary to close us out, unless folks have I don't know if we have time for questions, but I'll let William and Noah decide that.
Are we going to
Thank you.
transition at all into groups or no?
If you think we have time, I have
No.
time. But if you think we should wait and do it during the week or wait until next Sunday and open up with those, we can do either or. I don't know how
Okay, let me get
tired
some.
people might be or what they need to be doing right now.
feedback from Nawa on that.
Mhm.
I think breakouts are usually best earlier. So
Okay.
maybe save it for next week.
Okay.
Yeah. So all I really want to do today, because I knew we were going to have about 4 or 5, maybe 6 new people or semi-new people who've only been here once or twice. I just wanted them to get used to the teaching level of what we do before breaking into a group where 90% of what we're doing, they're not going to understand it. So you guys now have to tailor your language, keeping in mind that there are people who are just getting on board. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
again, this subject is so important, and I hope we all have registered that. Uh, I don't know if everyone can see this. It's kind of difficult. Anyway, what I have in my hand, because there's my hand now. No, camera's not picking it up. What I have is some gloves was given to me by one of my daughters, and it's actually a glove, a gardening glove, and on the end of it there's some, believe it or not, there's some claws on the end of the fingers, and they're
Synchronicity.
designed, yes, and they're designed for, weeding the garden. And I couldn't help but go and grab one. I want to share it with you, but maybe some other time I'll show it to you. But an instructor told us in our class last Sunday that the woman that Adam's mate was not, they weren't in the garden, but the mate was actually the garden, you know. And it's just so instructive. Listen, go back over these last two classes, not just for academic sake, not uh, just for having that arsenal of information and knowledge at your disposal, but to be able to get a grip on your life. You don't know how important these last two sessions have been unless you visit them and revisit them and revisit them, and not only think about it deeply, but do your research, do your studying so that you can own the information. And this will transform your individual life. This will transform your family life. This will transform the life of the community. This will transform, listen, the whole society. What we have available to us. Do not take this information lightly, please. Please. Owe it to yourself. And I know Instructor Bilal, I know he's anxious to do the same thing, to go back and listen over and over and over again.
Sure.
Yes, yes. So this is real, and this is how Allah is preserving what He has created in on the fitra pattern. This is the way it works. So you have to show, as we started our class out, this is how you show gratitude. Take what Allah has given you, given me, and show appreciation for it by owning it, letting it become a part of your being, your constitution. So with that, I'll bid you all well until next Sunday. If there's anything really important and pressing that uh, you have in terms of a question, write it down and make sure that you uh, look at the question yourself. Many times Allah will answer your question for you as you write the question down, And if you can't resolve it, then reach out to some other class members, and if the other class members can't between you, you can't resolve where your soul is satisfied, reach out to Instructor Bilal. But that's the rate and the pace that we're moving at right now. So with that,
Yeah. So just as a reminder, the 2 presenters we had today, Vienna and Nawa, I will be giving you a written response to your presentation. So expect that in the next few days. And thank you for taking the time to put that together.
and my little feedback on that, if this were an academic situation in the university, then I would have taken those presentations as what do you call them, when the PhD want to get the sign off from the college university, they have to do a dissertation.
Yeah, dissertation.
Yeah, I would have taken those two presentations, like dissertations, and if I'd been up to it, you would have gotten your PhD, your doctorate, right today. That's how impressed I was with what you.
Thank you.
It's not about the, uh, as we say, the crossing of every T and the dotting of every I, or sounding so eloquent, or having this plan and the system that you laid out and you nailed it. No, no, it's about you're just living up to the moment and being as open as you possibly can be, and just being you, and that's what
Yeah.
you all do. So I thank
We
both
love
of
it.
you.
We love it. We love it. Keep it coming.
Yes, indeed. So with that, I'll say peace. Salamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Like,
Walaikum
Jazakallah khairan.
salam. All
Malaysia.
right. That's really it.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you all. Thank you,
Walaikum
instructor.
salam. Thank you. Thank all of you.